2 Corinthians chapter 6. We then, as workers together with him, beseech you also that ye receive not the grace of God in vain. For he hath said, I have heard thee in the time accepted, and in the day of salvation I have succored thee. Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Giving no offense in anything, that the ministry be not blamed, but in all things approving ourselves as ministers of God, in much patience, in afflictions, in necessities, in distresses, in stripes, in imprisonments, in tumults, in labors, in watchings, in fastings, by pureness, by knowledge, by long suffering, by kindness, by the Holy Ghost, by love unfeigned, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness, on the right hand and on the left, by honor and dishonor, by evil report and good report, as deceivers and yet true, as unknown and yet well known, as dying and behold we live, as chastened and not killed, as sorrowful yet always rejoicing, as poor yet making many rich, as having nothing and yet possessing all things. O ye Corinthians, our mouth is open unto you, our heart is enlarged. Ye are not straitened in us, but ye are straitened in your own bowels. Now for a recompense in the same, I speak as unto my children, be ye also enlarged. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God. As God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. Wherefore, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. Isn't it powerful, child of God, that he speaks in verse 2 about him calling us unto salvation? He says, I have succored thee. That means that I have come to you. I've run to you in the time of your help. But then Paul makes a very strong statement between verses 3 all the way down to verse 10. He's basically saying that in all things continue to hold the faith. This is where he says things like, but in all things approving ourselves as ministers of God, in much patience and afflictions and necessities, and on and on and on. Believer, there's going to be ups and downs as a child of God, but make sure you hold fast to your faith. He was encouraging them because of the end part of what he was about to tell them in this particular discourse in chapter 6. He says, be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. We're in the world, but not of the world. So he goes further on to say, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord. Believer, every day we have a coming out experience. That means there's yet something else that we have to move away from, so that the temple that we are in God can be purified. He says, what fellowship does the believer have with the unbeliever? Our goal with the unbeliever is to embrace them and love them and lead them to Christ. But you always have to question whether or not your connection with the ungodly is changing you more than it's changing them. God bless you. This was 2 Corinthians chapter 6, and remember, you are a champion.